What you think about when you're born into a fire. Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away, fade away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, we kill it anyway. Listen up now, because we're never dropping out. Beat the odds, beat the big house. The brains are bigger than the doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves, we won't let the world burn away, burn away. We feel betrayed. We were raised to lose the race. Wake at the back of the pack, kill it anyway. To blame, hate is
Hello, hello. What's up? Oh, great. It's Suko's here.
Hey,
I can't get
Daddies,
one
it's me,
fucking day at
Linda
Suko.
Binda from TikTok. I wanted to make this video because I wanted to thank you for watching Cold Beer Confessionals with Will Burr. I think that's just incredible. I've watched a few episodes and I'm just like very intrigued. But you know what I'm most intrigued in is Big Daddy's meat stick. I heard that it's very thick, like a good old German sausage. You know, Linda and her coochie loves that. Oh, never mind. Let's not go there. Anyways, I hope you have a good show and enjoy it as you can. There's a lot of weird things that go on, especially when it comes from the realm of Linda Bindaland. So, enjoy the show. Thanks for watching. Peace out.
Ooh, welcome, everybody. Atsuko won't fucking leave me alone. Hey, Atsuko, guess what we had today? One, we went to a ramen restaurant, ramen noodles, and then we had those weird fucking sodas from China or wherever you live that had like the marble in it, and you like push the marble down in it, and it like opens it or whatever. Liam saw them in the cooler as we were leaving. We all bought one. I don't know. You're saying you're speaking in a different language. I would not be able to confirm. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. Welcome everybody. What's happening? What's up? I saw Bort was over here bragging. Did you like it? The soda? The ramen noodles were all right. I got they call it firecracker shrimp. That was good. That was our appetizer. And then I just got chicken ramen. It had like ramen broth, like this breaded chicken plank things that were like cut up. 1 egg split in half. And something called mountain vegetables. It was just like regular vegetables. I would like put in the broth. It was all right. The soda, when I don't think it's like American soft drinks. When I first drank it, I was like, it almost tasted like if you took an orange soda that had a bunch of ice in it and you let all the ice melt and then drink it. Or like there was just a little bit of soda in the bottom and it just tasted really weak, like it was watered down. But by the end of it, it actually tasted a lot better. I guess I was just used to it. But like American soda is like full of fucking sugar and, you know, flavor, and it doesn't taste like assholes. So it must be the difference. I don't know. Either way, Liam, the reason we went is Liam wanted to go there, and he graduated his little college program, Upward Bounds, today. And they have one more trip that they're going to Chattanooga, but he can't make it because he's going on a different trip for a different club that he's in. He had to pick between the two, and he picked the other one. They're just going to Chattanooga to go to like the fucking, like a museum and to go to like the aquarium and shit. But the FFA, Future Farmers of America Club, which he's into, is having their state convention down in Gatlinburg instead. So he's going down there for the convention. So he'll do that. He did win some awards. He got like top student in his forensics class. He got best composition in his photography class, and he got top student in his Spanish class. So he got 3 different awards and a participation award. Everybody got the participation award, I think. Holy shit. Can I show this? Is Dr. J here? She might not be here. Yeah, it doesn't show any. I'm going to show it anyways. It doesn't show anything. Let me show you what happened at Dr. J's house. Did she share this anywhere else other than Mod Chat? That's hail. Look at that shit. Yeah, it doesn't identify her house. It's just her backyard. So that's like golf ball sized hail. That's wild. Thunderstorm. She lives in Colorado, but I didn't really think they were like known for like big thunderstorms or nothing or whatever, but yeah. This happened today at my house. Luckily, no damage. This was yesterday. Luckily, no damage besides just the roof vents in our camper. My bro lost 2 skylights. Oh, yeah, I bet skylights would be tough during a fucking hailstorm. Anyways, what I was saying was Bort's. Bort's off the chain over here, dude. He's talking about his landlords expecting rent every fucking month. Like, what the fuck is that?
My landlord had been fair to me and not kicked me out because I complained about.
I guess we just don't hear about it. Like, we hear about thunderstorms in the South. We hear about thunderstorms in, like, the Midwest, like Tornado Alley stuff. We just don't hear about Colorado thunderstorms, I guess. It's snowstorms, yeah, just not thunderstorms.
If my landlord had been fair to me and not kicked me out because I complained about my neighbors too much to suit them, rather than them doing something about the neighbors, I'd still be over there and my financial situation would be in good shape.
So they only kicked him out because he complained about his neighbors. He also has some weird Caitlin Clark fetish.
Knocking her down, running up to her, hitting her in with their chests, these women, and knocking her to the ground. No fouls. It's absurd. It's black people and lesbian women.
I don't think so. I don't think this is happening as much as like the internet tries to make it and MAGA tries to make it. It's because they're if you watch any NBA game, okay, you're going to see some uncalled elbows, some uncalled fouls, some uncalled stuff, right? That just doesn't get called. Now, Caitlin Clark has the ball a lot. She does get fouled a lot. And a lot of them go uncalled or not seen or whatever. Some of them have been more flagrant than others. But I think because we're if you hyper-focused on any player like that, if you pick like one player out of the NBA and follow them around, you could find all kinds of fucking, like, fouls against them that don't get fucking called. You know what I mean? It is what it is. I think because we're hyper-focused on it, we're seeing what we're looking for. And if we were looking for it anywhere else, we would see it there as well.
Black women and lesbian white women that are attacking her. Absurd. It's black people and lesbian women, black women and lesbian white women that are attacking her. This is sexual harassment.
Because it's a racist dog whistle. It's a racist dog whistle, and Bort likes the dog whistle because he can blow it, right? It makes him feel good. It makes him feel validated in his hatred for other groups of people.
Harassment. I swear to God, if she were doing this to black people, there would be riots in the street. It's unbelievable.
Again, I think if we hyper-focus on just about anybody, we're going to get the same exact thing. Oh, speaking of which, I told you guys there's a group. Actually, John McKay, I don't know if he watches the show live or watches it later or whatever, but I see him comment sometimes. John McKay is on Facebook, and he's in my debunking group. And the last time I showed you guys the Irwin Watchdog page, which is like a page for my local town, he joined it, and I've seen him post in there a couple times to get people riled up. But there's this guy from my hometown named Fred Hepding. Fred Hepding. And the guy's like a super fucking MAGA guy. So by the way, I want to remind you, I told someone one time that they were full of shits. I literally said, I tagged them, and I commented, they commented back, and I commented back and said, at John Smith, you're full of shit. That's not true. And I got banned from this group for 2 weeks. Keep that in mind. They told me there's no cussing, is a family-friendly page, no cursing. And I got banned. It was either 2 weeks or a month from this page for saying, Joe, you're full of shit. Here's why, and explaining it. That's the only cuss word I said was full of shit, okay? The only cussing phrase I said. So Fred Hepding shares this post that says, Antifa is not just a movement, it's an organization. Now, what he shares is not Antifa, okay? It's the International Anti-Fascist Defense Fund. So basically, in countries that have a fascist leadership, a fascist dictator, often he will round up and arrest people that speak out against them, or she. They will round up and arrest. The International Anti-Fascist Defense Fund is a German-based fundraising effort for international people. Like if you feel like you've been targeted for speaking out against fascism, they pick so many cases to fund, okay? And they pay for your lawyer. This is not Antifa, even as he means it. He means like anybody on the left that protests and blah, blah, blah. He means those. That's Antifa. Everybody's Antifa. But even that's not true, okay? This is a defense fund. This is crowdfunding for defense of people that they feel like have been targeted by fascist authoritarian governments. Everybody understand? Here's the comments. Someone who agrees with me says the level of delusion in here is impressive. Someone says PSYOP Central. The original poster, Fred Hepding says, nope, it's been there for a while. Antifa is not just a movement. Wayne Howe says, no news to me. I have done my homework. It's an organization of homegrown terrorists sponsored by George Soros, Bill Gates, and the Democratic Party. Fred responds and says, leftists keep saying it's not an organization. I see them make the claim repeatedly. They are heavily making that claim since that recent conviction. The history of Antifa has always been that of communist violence. By the way, the original Antifa was started by a group of communists resisting the Nazis, but whatever. Wayne says, laugh out loud, they cannot help themselves. They are ignorant. Fred, directly related to what they are teaching in the public school system under Common Core. By the way, Common Core is language arts and math. Common Core only covers language arts and math. Who the fuck is teaching you what a semicolon does in a way to make you support Antifa? But somehow they always blame it on Common Core. What they are teaching in the public school system under Common Core and that racist crap they've been teaching. They put out studies talking about their intellectual supremacy while us right-wing supremacists. And Smith says a terrorist organization. So I wanted to correct this, and I know that Fred's a fucking douchebag, right? So I said, good job showing us a German-based crowdfunding group for legal defense. It's a defense fund, in case you couldn't read the title. He basically, he's showing us this and saying, look, Antifa's an organization. They got a website right here. That's not what this is. Are you fucking retarded? Anyways, that pastor is crazy. I'll show you the video in a second. Jennifer Winkler is talking about that pastor like ran across the fucking road to beat some dude's ass. Anyways, Matthew Williams, the same guy that believes the same as I do, says, they just typed in anti-fascist and chose the first image that came up. They are not known for their literary prowess, after all. So here's Fred. Fred says, Will Bird, it's international. I didn't say it wasn't. Something can be German-based and international, correct? Like, it can't be international-based. I said it's a German-based crowdfunding group. It's international in all caps. It's a defense fund for Antifa members. Is that what it says? Is that what this is? No. Anyone claiming Antifa is only a movement is a lying piece of shit commie. All right, so he's already cussing, right? I got banned for 2 weeks or a month. I can't remember. Let's just say 2 weeks. I got banned for 2 weeks for saying someone was full of shit. Now he's like, anyone claiming Antifa is only a movement is a lying piece of shit commie. So I put, oh, you're terrified of a word. Haha. Y'all hilarious. He says, Will Bird, we aren't terrified of any words. We're sick and tired of the violence coming from those fuckers. Family-friendly page with no cursing allowed. They are discussing pieces of commie shit traitors. It's an organization, and you're a lying piece of shit denying it. You're a lying piece of shit denying it. Well, I thought we weren't allowed to cuss. I said, haha, here's a secret. I'm anti-fascist, and you should be too. Don't be scared. I'll hold your hand if you need me to. This was his great comeback. You ready? Fred says, Will Bird, I'm anti-Antifa. I'm anti-Antifa. So you're pro-fascist? I'm anti-Antifa, against fascism, socialism, and communism. Just because you call yourself anti one bad thing doesn't mean you're not part of something worse. Communism is responsible for more death and suffering than fascism. Commie Antifa are violent, lying commie pigs, in all caps. Commie Antifa shit stains are no better than fascists. So you are anti-fascist. So you are Antifa. Fucking commie scum. That's what he called me. Fucking commie scum. I said, Fred, these silly words, let me help you. Let me help you understand. I can't type it slow, but you have plenty of time to read it slow. Anti-fascist means pro-fascist. Would you like me to draw you a picture to help you out? Also, did you just learn your first curse word or just think it makes you look tough? He responds. History proves everything I say. Antifa started by the commies, committed terrorism right from the start, started by the very commies that committed democide in Russia. Communism responsible for over 120 million deaths. You think commies have virtue because of they define it as? In its over 100-year history, reality has shown commies are nothing but dirty, manipulative, lying trash. Will Burt, it's not about looking tough. I just have absolutely no respect for commie trash. The feces I flush is more valuable than a commie. Then I got tired of going back and forth. I said, sure, Fred, be anti-fascist and watch your fucking mouth when you talk to me. He didn't respond. Sam did. Sam said, hey, Fred, take your medicine and go to bed. You're rambling. What do they think? They're like, look, I found a website that says something about anti-fascist. Obviously, Antifa's a real group. Look, here's their website. I hate my fucking hometown. Shit. My hometown Facebook group. A terrorist group that goes out and seeks violence and destruction but makes themselves feel better by telling themselves they are fighting for oppressed people, LGBTQ, and minorities. Oh, you got them? You got them there, I guess. They are idiots. They also will decide per their handbook who is actually black. I read their handbook. By the way, this story right here has nothing to do with Antifa. The Ohm 5 are a group of people that broke into Elbit Systems. Yeah, smashed Elbit a bit. They broke into a place called Elbit Systems, which is a factory, which is illegal, right? They can be held liable for that. They broke into this Israeli weapons manufacturers and damaged some of the equipment so they couldn't keep producing weapons while the Gaza shit was going on. They're currently facing trial for trespass and property damage. But I think they're also trying to get them as forming a criminal organization, like tack on a bunch of other charges and different conspiracy charges. But yeah, these people broke into a weapons manufacturer and destroyed equipment that manufactures weapons for the Israeli military. So I'm not defending their actions or saying that their actions aren't illegal. I'm just telling you, This is not like, this is the Antifa homepage. Who wants to join? Let's find that preacher. Let's go to TikTok.
To hell with the Alamo. Remember Pearl Harbor? You remember that shit? Huh? This is America, and our only language is English. And you get that shit straight. Cancer, dog food, dog turd. Prevent cancer. No dogs in house. Cancer dog get 15 times more cans than you and me. Honk, just a shunk. If you love, Jesus. Amen. Jesus hates your Satan, sex, fornication, and adultery also. Cigarettes, beer, whiskey do not kill any baby. Estate's sale. Everything goes is... Oh, sorry. Closed due because of weather. Thanks. Do not miss with.
Oh, what's up, John McKay? I was telling them that you're in my local Irwin Buzz page. I've been fighting with that Fred Hepding guy on there.
Too much paper because of clogged.
I think I covered that page and like fighting with people on it and a show, and you joined it after that, right?
In trash can. Thank you. The CR rot signal will receive again. Yade sale. That's not what it is. Yale sale. Fuck, that's not it either.
Yard sard.
Yard sard. Fuck, that's not it either. Guard sale. Shit. Out of order. Carbon dioxide messed up the fountain syrup. Sorry for convenient.
Hey, we got chickens for sale. We got biddies and growed ones, too.
I am an asshole man. I love freedom, drink beer. I love my wife. I protect my family. I eat meat. I have tattoos. If you don't like it, move. Y'all, this sale is huge sale. How many times do I gotta tell you? Not far nobody went. You're making me angry. Listen, all right? We ain't got no fucking Latouche, all right? You want that shit? Take your ass to Jimmy John's. Please give...
I see you in there posting sometimes. I try to comment or like it or something. They don't know that you're not from Irwin, but it's funny.
Time to feel, all right? And stop leaving upper deckers in that motherfucker. If anybody does not work on Thanksgiving 24th morning of afternoon, let me know. Thanks again, Charles. Local fresh hot poo here. No hate anywhere. You can eat your shit guilt-free. Get your shangle shit today. Right now.
No poobies here. Sorry about your luck.
Please don't forget to, and you can grab the, inside the, store at the. Alright? You grasping it? Firmly grasp it. This vehicle is powered by 100% Aragnic Fuffle. Don't know what that is? Don't even try Googling it. I make it in my shed. For sale or tarred. Jimmy, I don't think we should be calling them that no more. I don't think that's right. Powered by cum.
It's a fucking shit show in there, isn't it, John McKay? I bet you I pass on commenting on because I just don't feel like fooling with them and my notifications blowing up 100 times a day. I bet you I pass on 90% of the fucking posts, and the few I comment on, somebody always has a fucking meltdown.
Ice cold beer. He is risen. Thursday jam night. I mean, listen, you want this thing or not? All right, 500 for him. I ain't budging. All right, for him. Like my grandpappy used to tell me, the cream is all, but the milk is yet. He had a severe stroke. Do not add Latouche. We out, all right? Fuck. Anything left in the frig over the weekend will be thrown away come early Monday morning. Trying to keep it clean and net free. Thanks. Just letting y'all know all shoplifters will be
Holy shit. It's a strong policy.
prostituted, all right? I don't make the rules, okay? But it's eye for an eye. Or in this case, a puss for a purse. Jesus is Lord. Hand-breaded chicken. God damn it, y'all ain't gonna believe this. What happened? Homemade hot dog. She did not. Yes. How much? $1. Due to the water boiling, we can't serve no drinks. So sorry. To hell with...
Damn, that's tough. All right, hold on. This is the person from Jen's community. See, he walks all the way from over there to fight this fucking guy, this 20-year-old. His neighbor. Now, the guy claims he was making threats about killing his family or some shit, but... And he goes on to his church to brag about it, saying he didn't do nothing wrong, that the Bible says to lay hands on the sick, and he was laying hands on this sick sinner. And people are peddling his bullshit. No one knows if it's true, but he said it, so people are peddling. Like the very first comment says, considering this neighbor has been terrorizing the family and the church, including threatening to rape the wife and the 8-year-old daughter, the pastor and the cops are letting him get away with it. They are doing nothing to protect the church or the family. The pastor did the right thing. It's the cops who are in the wrong for not doing their jobs and allowing this man. Now, I'm not saying that's not true. It very well may be true. Okay? The problem is no one knows that. Like, he said it, and now everybody that supports him is repeating it. He's from Gen X's town, I guess. Fucking wild, dude. There's a clip of him. Here it is.
In my name, they shall lay hands on the sick. And they shall recover. So today, for the merit and all.
Even if he had a right to fight the guy, and I could be like, well, yeah, I probably would have fought at that point. I think he took it too far.
I fulfill the scripture. I lay hands on the sick. I don't know how much recovery they're going to have.
So there you go. He's basically bragging about it in church, saying, I laid hands on the sick.
Couple things you should know about this pastor before you start clapping for him.
So today, for the merit and all of you, I fulfill the scripture. I lay hands on the sick. I don't know how much recovery they're going to have.
First, we should never boast about putting our hands on somebody that don't believe in Jesus. We shouldn't rejoice in putting our hands on anybody. You remember Jesus said when he was reviled, he did not revile back. And also, he said, turn your other cheek. But I get it. There will be situations where you can't run and you got to defend yourself. But why you boasting about it, big dog? I'm a pastor. And guess what? I would never rejoice if I got to put my hands on somebody to protect myself or my family. And at the same time, remember, this happened with the guy he put his hands on. I know some people in my community that when you put your hands on them, all they're going to do is return fire for fire. And pastor, you really want to go to war with somebody like that? Because the weapons of our warfare are not.
That's what I was going to say. I heard the falling out had something to do with COVID. This is one of the pastors that was arrested because he refused to stop having church during COVID. And apparently they're neighbors to the church, and Jen says they let the cops sit there.
Not physical, just spiritual. Second thing you need to know.
I had to get you a fun. I comment on that guy's post. So it's like this old man. It's hard for me to explain because it's just going to sound like my dad was a piece of shit. But mom and dad had a relationship kind of like me and Mariah, where they would just say like fucked up shit to each other just to laugh or whatever. And if you didn't know them, you'd think they were serious and they fucking hated each other. But really, they just joked with each other all the time. And this old man and old lady that make the funnel cakes remind me so much of my fucking parents. It isn't even funny. So I walk over there and try to instigate and get them joking and buy a funnel cake. Every time I see them, I buy a funnel cake for them. I've thrown away 4 funnel cakes. I don't even fucking like them that much. I don't even eat them that much. But I usually go buy a funnel cake, even if I got to throw it away afterwards. They're just out trying to make money.
Church website, and they don't even believe in the Trinity. So if you're a Christian and you understand doctrine and theology, they would not be considered a church. They're actually considered heretical. They believe in oneness Pentecostalism, which says that there's not one God with 3 persons. It's actually just one God who manifests and molds himself into different places. They would deny a orthodox teaching of the Bible, which is the Trinity. And I'm just saying, like, yo, be careful when you just start applauding people and somehow saying that's my Christian brother, because that doctrine they hold to was labeled a heresy. It's actually not orthodox teaching. It's not something we hold to as Christians. But yeah, man, all I'm saying is we got to be careful just running to celebrate or laugh and stuff on social media, especially when there's real dire content.
I'll send you a picture of it. It's not be worth a shit if I mail it.
Things you should know about this pastor before you. A couple things you should. A couple.
A Louisiana pastor.
I don't think it matters. Like, he can yell whatever the fuck he wants, right? Like, you can call the cops and say he's making threats or this, that, the other, but he can yell whatever the fuck. It seems like he's on his property or an easement on his property.
Is making
right away, whatever.
Headlines after taking matters into his own hands across a 4-lane highway. Pastor Tony Spell was recently arrested and charged with second-degree battery following a heated physical altercation caught on camera with his neighbor's 20-year-old son. But the real internet debate centers around exactly why this confrontation happened. According to Pastor Spell, he was working outside when the neighbor's son began shouting severe, unthinkable threats directed at his wife and his grandchildren, explicitly detailing plans to harm his family while he was away. Spell claims he had previously reached out to law enforcement with multiple complaints.
Now, again, these are just claims, right? That someone did this to us, right? That person after the flood that ended up getting me and right. Bort likes to bring it up all the time, saying he's out CPS cases or whatever. The guy that just fucking called and lied to CPS and the police and shit, said I threatened him and tried to hit him with my car. Didn't realize I was videotaping everything. Like, anybody can just fucking lie, right? You can even get restraining orders and shit. But eventually, the truth either comes out or you're going to have to be like, I don't have evidence. One of the two.
Regarding the family, but felt that nothing was being done to ensure their safety.
That's Shane Vaughn's church, too.
Feeling he had a duty as a protector, he crossed
Professor Toto, is that you're talking about?
Himself. While the neighbors completely deny these claims and call the pastor a bully, the internet is intensely divided. Some believe
that motherfucker was committing insurance fraud with people's children at one time.
Overstepped the law, while many others argue they would do the exact same thing to protect their loved ones. What do you think? Did this pastor go too far, or did he do what any provider would do? Let me know in the comments.
A couple.
This is Scott Sherwin and his wife showing out at his home on Hooper Road after church service at Life Tabernacle across the street. He especially delights in doing this and some hurling vile insults at women and children. He has repeated this thousands of times since March 2020. So far, law enforcement has done nothing about it. Well, yeah, he's on his land. He can yell and scream and shout and do whatever the fuck he wants. As long as he's not breaking the law. And the pastor could yell back, and the pastor can call the police, or he can construct a wall, or he can instruct people not to fucking look over there. Whatever the fuck he wants to do, as long as he's not breaking the law.
Jesus, not me.
Anything you would like to say to your congregation, to the people out here in Baton Rouge?
I have church on Tuesday night. I'm heading to the pulpit right now. I've got a red hot sermon ready.
Anything you would like to say to your congregation, to the people out here in Baton Rouge?
I have church on Tuesday night. I'm heading to the pulpit right now. I've got a red hot sermon ready.
Anything.
Try Jesus.
Pastor's Tony Spell released on bond after taking his neighbor through there.
Not me. 'Cause I throw hands. Try Jesus. Please don't try me. Because I'm fine. Try Jesus. Try Jesus. Please don't try.
He looks kind of like Gavin Newsom if you squint real hard.
Me.
Woke up calm, no chaos in my phone.
I'm just going to read you this headline and then the first couple paragraphs of this story. I'm just going to read you this headline and then the first couple paragraphs of this story. I don't even think you need commentary. Pastor Tony Spell says he fulfilled scripture in beatdown of man who threatened his family and church. Pastor Tony Spell of Life Tabernacle Church in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, says he was acting in fulfillment of Mark 16:18 when he meted out a beatdown of a man who reportedly threatened to murder his family and harm his congregation. Spell, 48, was arrested and charged with a second-degree battery on Tuesday after he was recorded in a nearly 1-minute video reacting to a 20-year-old neighbor who swung at him first around 11 a.m. on Hooper Road near his church, local media reported. The video shows Spell raining down multiple blows to the man's head and face, along with at least one kick. Number one, the Christian Post is a very conservative publication. Number two, I just want to read Mark 16:18 for you.
Even if he felt completely validated that his life was in danger, blah, 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 and he hadn't crossed the interstate, I still think he went too far, right? When the guy's like completely surrendered and shit, he gets up and fucking kicks him and shit.
Which he said he was fulfilling. This is the New International Version. They will pick up snakes with their hands, and when they drink deadly poison, it will not hurt them at all. They will place their hands on sick people, and they will get well. Okay. I cover this stuff every week in my Religioverse newsletter. Maybe I'll cover this story if you ever want to read instead of scroll.
Seems kind of wild.
Just.
All right, you know what else is wild? Did you guys see this shit? Give me just a second. Here, I'll give you something to watch while I'm looking something up. I got the clip, but I want the full video, so it'll be a second. Let me grab something else. Even Nick Fuentes doesn't want to live in a red state. Have you guys seen this? He's from Chicago, by the way.
City, dude.
Blue ass fucking Chicago. And then someone in his chat suggests he moves out of Oklahoma. Now, Nick says fucking right wing as you can be, traditional gender roles, fucking Catholic, thinks that there should be a Catholic president, and Catholicism should be like the mandated religion. Everybody should have to convert or be ostracized. Like, right. And even he, living in Chicago, is like, there's no fucking way I'd live in Oklahoma. Listen how he makes fun of it.
Oklahoma City, dude. What are you, on drugs? Yeah, I'm gonna go to Oklahoma. I'm gonna get a big 10-gallon hat. I'm gonna walk around like this. with my belt buckle. Hey, y'all, I'm in Oklahoma. What are you, high? You think I'm going to live in Oklahoma where it's 10 trillion degrees and the whole state is red? I don't think so. I've never been there, but I don't think so. Yeah, I don't know what's wrong. I actually like liberals. I actually like living near and around liberals. I like living around them. They're cultured. You know, I don't want to eat barbecue all the time, actually. I don't want to eat a bunch of smoked meat in, like, syrup. Because that's what's good food down there. You say, what's your specialty? So we smoke meat, and then we cover it in syrup. We cover it in sweet and spicy syrup. Oh, that's great. What else you got? Mac and cheese. So that's cheese sauce on noodles. Do I have that right? So you have meat with syrup on top, and then pasta and cheese sauce. And that's your specialty. Yup. Okay, well, you know, I think I'll just stick around here, actually. I think I'm good with the lattes, actually. I think I'll take the matcha. I think I'll stick with the lattes and the avocado toast and all that. Oklahoma City, dude. What are you, on drugs? Yeah, I'm going to.
So they want everything to be right wing until it comes to where they want to fucking live. And he lives in fucking the outskirts of Chicago and doesn't want to fucking move anywhere that's more right wing. That's pretty crazy, right? Like, can you get more fucking hypocritical? All right, everybody, take off your hats. This is pretty long, but JD Vance, this is where the Watergate clip comes from, okay? Where he talks about, like, if Watergate happened today, it'd be out of the news cycle in 12 hours or whatever. Which makes sense when you think about all the fucking shit that is surrounding them. You know what I mean?
Let's hear it again for the Vice President of the United States. Thank you.
Look, I live in bumfuck. And I don't mind it now because I got PTSD and it's slow paced and, you know, there's not a lot of traffic and I can't stand all the fucking maggots, which that didn't used to be a problem before Trump existed. But I kind of like it. But I can understand how, like, when Liam graduates high school, I don't want him to fucking just sit around here. You know what I mean? I didn't. I went and worked on the road. I've worked in big cities. The Army sent me to a bunch of different countries to kill people. Like, I went out and found adventure. I couldn't imagine being like fucking 18, 19, 20-year-old in this little ass fucking town with nothing to goddamn do. It would suck.
And thank you, Robert. Mr. Vice President, welcome to the Nixon Library. It is an honor to have you here. Communion, Finding My Way Back to Faith is your second book, and it has reached #1 on the New York Times bestseller list, so congratulations.
Thank you. A few weeks ago, some reporter asked me what was the difference between me and Gavin Newsom as political figures, and one of the things I can now say is that people actually bought my book and not his.
And your book is incredibly candid. It's very introspective, and it is largely devoid of politics. Instead, you focus on faith, and there are a few things more personal than someone's faith. You take us through the arc of losing and rediscovering your faith, so let's jump into it. You talk about the beginnings of your crisis of faith in the earliest pages of this book. There are a few seminal moments when you were a boy, your faith was shaken, most notably involving your grandmother, who, you write, quote, hardly fits the stereotype of a sweater-knitting, kindly old grandmother. She loved to say the F word, and when she died, she owned 19 loaded handguns.
Correct.
But she lost her health care, and then her ultimate passing helped lead you to a crisis. Let's start there. Talk about that.
Sure. So, my grandmother was, in many ways, not a stereotypical grandmother. And, she did have 19 loaded handguns when she died. And I remember when my aunt and I and my sister were going through things after she had passed away, we would find loaded revolvers all around the house, in like the knife drawer and in her dresser and her wardrobe. And we sort of were trying to think about why she had guns stashed everywhere. And we realized it was because Mamaw was a particularly, well, let's just say she believed in the Second Amendment and she believed in the right of self-defense. And so she didn't get around that well towards the end of her life. And so she made sure that no matter where she was, if somebody walked in her door, she would have a loaded revolver within arm's reach. And that was the kind of woman that she was. And she cussed a lot. I mean, there's so many stories I could tell about the ways in which her language was passed on to me. And my wife, who grew up in very middle-class Southern California family, there are times where she'll be like, you can't say those things around our 9-year-old or 6-year-old or 4-year-old because they repeat them. Like, for example, I'll tell you a story that one of the earliest flights that I had after I got elected to the Senate, I was flying back from Cincinnati to D.C., and because my kids were so young at the time, like sometimes I would just take a kid with me and hang out with me in D.C., and that was one of the ways I made sure, I stayed connected to my kids. We eventually moved the whole family to Washington, but for those first 6 months, I would only see my kids on weekends, and so I'd bring them to D.C., and I remember I was on a plane on a Delta flight from CVG to Washington Reagan Airport, and my son drops one of those Delta Biscoff cookies between his seat, and he looks at me and he goes, well, shit. And I like had this moment of sort of panic because I realized everybody around, think about a flight from Cincinnati to D.C., literally every person knows that I'm a United States Senator, and also that I'm apparently a terrible father because I've raised my 3-year-old to use that language. But anyway, that's the weave. We'll get back to the question. But the thing is, despite the fact that she was very non-conventional in a lot of ways, my grandmother was a person of very deep religious faith. And so when she died, I'll never forget this, and I still get a little bit emotional when I think about it, she had this practice where she had a little notebook, and she would say prayers and write her prayers down when she said them for each member of her family. And so you could actually see this almost as a diary of her conversations with God through the months or even through the years where, she'd pray for my safety, or she'd pray for my strength, or she'd pray, that something would go right in my sister's life. And you just realize that this was a woman who was constantly talking to God, despite the fact that her religion is what you might call unchurched. She loved the Lord. She believed in Jesus Christ. She also didn't go to church that often. And looking back, I think one of the things that I realized about my own faith is that I was attached to Christianity via my grandmother. She was the anchor. She was the person who taught me about God. She was the person who constantly was encouraging me to think about God. She was the person who was encouraging me to read the Bible and to pray. And because I didn't have a great church community myself, I would bounce around to various churches. Sometimes we'd go once a month, sometimes less than that. When my grandmother died, just a couple of months before I left for Iraq in 2005, I sort of lost my faith. And I think there was a sort of lesson in there for me, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, but I came back to my faith. And part of the thing I was trying to think through with this book is, why is it that kids who are raised in the faith fall away from it? I think most of us in this audience are probably people of faith. We raise our children to be Christians. I take my kids to church every Sunday, even when they're misbehaving and they don't want to go. And I'm thinking to myself, as I'm writing this book, what makes it take and what makes it not take? Why do some kids who are raised in the faith have this very, very strong connection to Christ, whereas some kids, some
of them are smarter than others,
ever really take root? And that's one of the things I was trying to think of. And one of the answers I came up with myself is, while it's very important to have a parent or a grandparent or somebody who raises you in your faith, I think that if that's it, if your only connection to faith is a loved one rather than something deeper and broader, then your faith is always going to be at risk, like mine was when that person passes away. And so that is definitely like one of the things that I write about, and one of the things that motivated me to write the book in the first place.
Well, that's kind of where this debate, which you write about between reason and science, right, and then versus the mystery of faith. And you say that this is playing out on Reddit threads, and we've all heard those theological debates, and you're having these debates with yourself.
Sure.
So you then begin classifying yourself as an atheist, and you write, quote, I was severing myself from my roots. How and why did that happen?
Yeah, so I grew up in a working class family in southwestern Ohio, and to lose my faith when I was 21 years old, 22 years old, so I'm in the Marine Corps, I go to Iraq. By the time that I leave the Marines, this would have been 2007, I was now calling myself an atheist. And And to do that it was this very sad thing in some ways, because I was disconnecting myself from the family that made me who I was, right? To sort of say that I wasn't a Christian anymore was to say that I wasn't connected to my grandmother anymore, because that was one of the most important things to her. I would say it was the most important thing to her. And so there was a certain amount of tragedy there. But there also was a certain amount of arrogance. And I think that a lot of us have went through this phase, and I certainly did, where you start to think that you know everything. And one of the ways that reflected itself in me is that I just assumed that anybody who had faith, anybody who was a person of deep religious roots, was superstitious. And I started to think of myself as I was motivated by reason, and I was motivated by smarts, and I was motivated by, honest and open debate. And the people who believed that Jesus Christ was the Son of God, like my grandmother,
they clearly are superstitious.
Yeah, it was kind of tragic that I didn't share that belief with her, but one of the ways that I expressed it was she's superstitious. She was a simpleton. And that arrogance that came from rejecting my faith, frankly, made me a much worse person. And it made me much more open to ideas that were far crazier and far more radical than anything that I had rejected when I was a Christian. And that was one of the things that I kind of realized is, G.K. Chesterton once said that when people stop believing in God, they don't believe in nothing, they believe in anything. And there was something really profound about that, because what I saw around me was a bunch of people who saw themselves as hyper-rational, as motivated by science, as motivated by reason, but in reality, having discarded faith, they just adopted a whole new set of ideas that I think was, frankly, a lot crazier than anything that I had derided as superstition or as simple when I was a kid. And that was an interesting realization for me, that you become an atheist in part because you assume that you're smarter than everybody else, and then you realize that the people who assume that they're smarter than everybody else believe some very stupid things.
Well, that's certainly true. But during this time, you start to read C.S. Lewis.
I do.
And you write that you wish that God was more like Aslan from the Chronicles of Narnia. What did you mean by that, and what are you learning, what are you taking away from C.S. Lewis?
Well, one of the things that, I think all of us come to God in our own ways. And some of us, it's through a loved one. Some of us, it's through a relative. Some of us, it's because we belong to a church that's very meaningful to us. I think one of the ways that I always engage with my faith, and was certainly true then, and is definitely true now, is through ideas. Is the idea that there was some truth built into the Christian faith that maybe I discarded, but was very profound and very moving and can motivate people to do amazing and inspiring and courageous things. But I was definitely interested in the intellectual elements of Christianity. And what C.S. Lewis did for me, and what I talk about in the book about being really, really attracted to this Aslan figure in a child's book, and encountering God in a children's book in a way that I'd never encountered God when I was being raised by my grandmother in Southwestern Ohio. And what I meant by that is that there were all of these things, that Aslan would say that I later found out were basically just C.S. Lewis copying from the Bible and putting them in his books. I mean, it was fundamentally, if you don't know the backstory of the C.S. Lewis's novels, what he was trying to do was imagine what would Jesus Christ look like in the context of a children's novel. That's who Aslan is. It's not a metaphor or an allegory of Christ. He's actually trying to say this is what Christ would look like, would sound like, were he in this very rich children's novel that he wrote. And what I found so compelling about it is that there was something deeply smart about C.S. Lewis's Christianity.
God, he's such a boring human, dude.
That led me astray in some ways. And what I mean is there was a point in my life where my faith was very much of the head, but not of the heart. And so I think you can overthink these things. You can over-intellectualize these things. But the way
how long do you work, donuts?
Is I realized that there were a lot of really interesting ideas at the core of Christian philosophy and at the core of Christian theology that I had cast aside, but were far richer than what I realized. And that kind of, again, that was the hook. That started to draw me back in. And there were other hooks, of course, but that was a very, very important hook for me, realizing as a kid who thought of himself as very smart and very rational, realizing that there was a brilliance to the Christian faith, that there was an insight into the Christian faith that I had never really taken seriously, but was very much there.
And as you are getting reeled back in, you write that it was a Catholic saint that provided the first proverbial crack in my atheist armor.
He will.
Who was that? What were the circumstances?
Well, so when I got baptized in, 2019, I took the name of St. Augustine because there were a couple of things that I had read when I, again, was in this sort of arrogant atheist phase. And I look back on it now and I think to myself, I'm kind of embarrassed by it. I cringe when I think of the things that I said back then. That's one of the great things about being a millennial as opposed to a Zoomer. Most of the stupid stuff that I've said is not on the internet. Right? I feel bad for the teenagers out there that a lot of the stupid stuff you say, guys, unfortunately, it's going to live forever. But, for me, most of it was just, the cringy stuff that I said was interacting with my friends and talking to professors and classmates and so forth. But, St. Augustine, first of all, there was this book that I read in a philosophy course that I took at Ohio State, right? So I'm an undergrad. It's called The City of God. And again, going back to this idea that the Christian canon, the set of ideas that laid the foundation for the Christian religion, that it was way more interesting and way smarter than anything else that I'd ever been exposed to. That was very, very important for me. But there were also things that St. Augustine said where he would talk about the importance of humility, and that certain ideas that maybe I had adopted when I was a Christian were actually my pathway to discarding my Christian faith. And, for example, I remember when I was a teenager, and I would go on online messaging chats and argue with scientists about this or that scientific question and how this was incompatible with the Christian faith or that was incompatible with the Christian faith. And there's actually, and I don't have the quote right in front of me, but there's this quote from St. Augustine, literally 1,700 years old, 1,600 years old, where he talks about assuming that you're smarter than other people and taking what you believe and assigning it as Christian doctrine is actually discrediting Christian doctrine. Because, who are you to go out there as a teenager and argue with people and assume that you know more about the Christian faith than everybody else, and you're going to try to whack people over the head with the truth of the Christian faith. And having a little bit of humility and accepting that something that you assume is unchristian, maybe a Christian thinker like St. Augustine said 1,700 years ago, was not totally consistent. There was this way where it sort of forced me to say, okay, I've discarded a Christian faith that I had, but maybe it was a very simple Christian faith, and maybe it was a very arrogant Christian faith, and maybe the thing that I had discarded was actually arrogance. It wasn't the truth of Christianity, but it was my own arrogance and my own sense that
got him.
Sort of keying off of that, you title a chapter, More Money, More Problems. Why does more money sometimes cause more problems?
Well, I'm a millennial, and so I believe that's the wisdom of the great Christian theologian, P. Diddy. who, as we found out in the last couple of years, is very much not a Christian or a theologian. But see, I'm gonna get in trouble for all kinds of things. That'll be one of them. That will be an attack ad at some point in the future. But okay, so again, to set the stage here, I was a Christian and then I wasn't. And I was arrogant and I assumed I knew everything, and I assumed that the faith of my grandmother was based on superstition. I was very arrogant about what I thought I knew. So I think all of us in our lives were searching for something. We're orienting our lives around something.
Diddy turns water into baby oil.
Orient my life
I've seen that
was
before.
status, was prestige, was money, was getting ahead. And by the way, there's a legitimate basis for that impulse. Like, it's not bad if you grow up in a working class family to want to be able to provide your kids things that you didn't have, or want to be able to provide your children stability that you didn't enjoy. Those things are all totally reasonable. But I turned it almost into an obsession. I turned it into an idol. I started to care so much about where I went to school and what my credentials were that I started to focus less on the things that actually mattered. And I realized that, that probably came from somewhere deep in me. I tend to think that both our virtues and our vices are programmed a little bit from the very beginning, but I recognized that I'd become a striver. I'd become a person who cared about success, not because I was trying to achieve something important, but because I wanted to be better than other people. And that was a fundamental flaw in my character. And then something kind of crazy happened. I won the game. I won the competition of life. I got into Yale Law School. Nobody in my family had ever known anybody who had gotten into an institution like that. And so I'm at this school, and I noticed a couple of things. The first thing that I noticed is that in this institution, where I assume that everybody is super smart and super rational, these are the best and the brightest, something kind of crazy happened. I noticed that a lot of them had some pretty crazy ideas of their own. And that if I dismissed the Christians in my life as being simpletons, there were things that my classmates at Yale Law School believed that were pretty crazy. Like, for example, men should play in women's sports. But there was a certain experiments there.
Got him.
Even though most of my classmates were good people and I liked a lot of them and we're still very good friends, there was a sense that I realized that these people had beliefs that were as religious and as orthodox.
When he was in college, postgraduate, that they were trying to push men into women's sports.
As anything I had ever experienced in the Christian family that raised me, but these people didn't root it in faith, they rooted it in the idea that they were smarter than everybody else. I realized that was dangerous. But then there was something much more personal and frankly much more important that happened, which is that I fell in love. And so the woman who is now the second lady of the United States and 36 weeks pregnant with baby number 4, thank you.
Congratulations.
So I fall in love with this girl, and I realize she doesn't care really about how much money I make or what my status is. She doesn't care about whether I become vice president of the United States. She just wants the things that are good out of life. She wants to have a nice family. She wants to have a bunch of babies. And she wants to build a life with somebody that she loves that is rooted in the things that matter. And it kind of hit me, all of the things that I've been orienting towards, all the things I've been focused on, the striving and the obsession with credentials, she doesn't care about that. She cares about whether I'm a good person. And I didn't build my life to be a good person. I built my life to get ahead. And the more that I started to think, how do you build your life to be a good person, to be the kind of man this woman wants me to be, it sort of hit me that Christianity that I discarded as a superstition was actually much wiser and much truer than what I discarded.
So you devote much of the second half of communion to exactly that, your family.
Sorry.
How you raise your children, their continued important roles in your life and along your faith journey. You write that you want to teach your sons to be virtuous men. What is it like to be both vice president and a young father raising virtuous children simultaneously?
Well, they're not virtuous yet, I'll tell you. They're very sweet kids. They're very good kids. We're working on the virtue part. I mean, so one thing, one thing I love about American Christianity is that it's very dynamic. You have Catholics and evangelicals arguing about this or that doctrinal question. You have the mainline churches and you have the Orthodox Church. You just have this very interesting, very dynamic hodgepodge. But I think it's actually, I love it because I think it leads to a lot of interesting conversations. I had so many interesting conversations with people of different denominations. And one of the differences between the evangelical church that I grew up in and the Catholic church that we take our kids to now, and I'm a baptized Catholic, is most of the time, Catholic churches encourage you to take your family into the mass with you. Like, that's a very big difference. When I was a kid, you would drop your kids off, they get the little kids off at the youth group, and then you go into the main congregation with everybody else. Now, there are like downsides to this, right? Because we've got a 9-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 4-year-old. And so sometimes, my 6-year-old is blabbering on about Dogman, which is these comic books that little kids are really into, while the priest is saying like the most important part. And the thing that I realized is that the ritual of going to church is a very, very good thing for our family. And that's one of the things. We talk about inculcating virtue. Okay, one of the most important virtues for kids to learn is they have to learn when it's appropriate to speak or not to speak, or when it's appropriate to interrupt or not to interrupt.
Be seen and not heard.
Little ways. Now, that's something small and something all kids eventually, at least most kids eventually figure out. But there's something also, where I'll notice, I'll look at my 9-year-old, and sometimes he's daydreaming when the homily is being said, but then sometimes he's actually thinking, oh, that's really interesting. Or, oh, because Christ sacrificed himself for us, maybe I should be a little bit more patient with my 6-year-old little brother who wants to steal one of my toys. And you realize there are these ways in which just a connection to the gospel is forming their minds in ways big and small. And that is the thing that I really, really love about the church. And it's a thing that I really, again, going back to my own formation, as much as I love my grandmother, and as much as she was a person of very devout faith, and as much as I believe that we will be reunited in heaven when all this is over, we didn't have that kind of church community. I didn't have that kind of day-to-day exposure to what the gospel was saying and what it required of me. And that is a thing that I just think is very good for kids. I happen to believe it's true, but I also think, completely aside from the truth of it, it's very good for my kids to be forced to reflect on this very, very ancient set of traditions and ancient set of faiths. And I'm already seeing it having a very profound effect upon them.
One of the themes that you address in communion is the value of debate
Yes.
and dissent and challenging long-held perspectives. Of course, your own debate in the 2024 presidential campaign helped introduce you to most Americans.
That was fun.
It was fun to watch, too. And in communion...
Can I tell you a story about that?
Please.
Okay. So you never really know how these things are going. There's adrenaline. I mean, Robert knows this. And, you're fundamentally, you might think things are going well and they're going terribly, or you might think things are going terribly and they're actually going well. So I finished this debate, and I think things have gone pretty well, but of course I don't know. And I'm sitting there on stage next to Tim Walz, and there's this point where they're kind of cutting to credits, and then my wife comes on stage, and then Tim Walz is
You lost.
Wife comes on stage. So I look over at Usha, and she's like,
You both lost your debates, but it doesn't matter because MAGA's dumb.
Glowing. She's got the biggest smile on her face, and I'm like, okay, that's a good sign.
One of the worst things you can do is force kids into churches and into boxes and this scene and not be heard, and you know when to speak and when not to speak because there's more important people. Get the fuck out of here.
Looks like she just showed up to her dog's funeral. And that was the moment where I realized
I can teach my kids to be respectful without dragging them to a church where someone's telling them they're going to fucking hell for being human.
If it's really happy and Glenn Wallace is not so happy, things must have went pretty well. I think you've just answered my question, which inadvertently. Talk to us about the importance of writing, because you mentioned that the first manuscript of this book was completed when Mrs. Vance was expecting your second child in 2019. That was before you were elected vice president. So how do you write? Talk us through your creative process. Yeah, so, one of the things that I think is very frustrating to my speechwriter, who's an amazing guy and an amazing writer in his own right, is that I can't say something unless it's in my own words. It has to be in my own words. And I think one of the ways, even when I was a young kid, one of the ways in which I think through things, or I puzzle through issues, or I try to think about what do you actually think about something, is you almost have a debate with yourself, right? You try to take two sides of a question and figure out which side is the right side. And I've always done that. And I've always tried to put that down on paper. Again, going back to when I was very young. And one of the things that's kind of crazy in the era of ChatGPT, where I just don't think that this sort of very age-old thing of writing, of actually forcing yourself to convert a thought in your brain to a thought on paper that other people will sort of absorb and respond to, whether they love it or they hate it. I think that's always just been a very important part of the way that I've done persuasion. And when we do, just going back to the debate, when we did debate prep, yeah, we did a sort of traditional session. Tom Emmer, a great congressman from the Minnesota, the state of Minnesota, he played Tim Walz and he did a great job. He was a lot tougher than Tim Walz, if I'm being honest. But one of the ways that I actually did debate prep is someone would send me, here are the things you might get asked about, and then I have to write out an answer for myself. And I just think that, for me at least, that process of forcing thoughts from your head to the paper is very, very important. And one other thing about just, if you look at my entire life in the public eye, a big part of it has been through writing, right? I became at least a reasonably well-known figure because I wrote Hillbilly Elegy, but I also always like to write op-eds. I always like to make arguments. I always like to debate ideas. It's one of the ways I've always tried to find truth, is by seeking it out and engaging back and forth with it. And again, to give Christianity a lot of credit, one of the things that I sort of figured out is Christian societies are much better at absorbing dissent than highly secular societies. And that was like, when I realized that, it's like a light bulb went off. If you go back to the really big transformative moments in 2,000 years of Western civilization, what you find is, despite the stereotype that I think progressives have of Christians, is Christians are much better at tolerating dissent and absorbing dissent, and in some ways encouraging dissent, than highly secular societies. And I think that's actually one of the secrets to why we're so dynamic. It's one of the secrets to why we've had such great technological innovation in the West, is because, yes, of course, when somebody challenges the status quo, even in a Christian society, they sometimes get pushback from it. But Christians, because they're rooted in the fundamental truth that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, I think our societies are much better able to tolerate the kind of dissent that creates scientific brilliance and advancement in philosophy and politics. Of people disagreeing with us, because we know that we have the real truth in our heart. So we're here at the Nixon Library, and President Nixon was a consummate statesman. And just a few days ago, you completed a major peace negotiation.
Here we go, Nixon.
Minutes ago, you paid respects at President Nixon's memorial site, where the epitaph on his marker reads, "The greatest honor history can bestow is the title of peacemaker." Was that the mentality that you embraced? Were you thinking of that sentiment as you were representing our country in Switzerland? Well, first of all, just because you brought up Nixon, I got to say thank you to you and to Robert and to the entire Nixon Library folks. This is an amazing thing, and I'm very proud to be here. So thank you, not just for welcoming me, but for everything you do. So we were talking about this a little bit backstage, but I'm actually fascinated by Nixon as a character in history. I think that his historical legacy is enjoying a bit of a renaissance, but I think deservedly so. As I joked with Robert backstage, if Watergate happened tomorrow, it would be like a 12-hour news story. The idea.
Imagine that the shit you do is so fucking crazy. You downplay Watergate to the point of, if it happened tomorrow, it would be like a 12-hour news story. Really? Really? Burglarizing, planting listening devices inside the DNC at the Watergate complex. The president himself covering it up in his connection. They paid hush money and used the CIA and the FBI to obstruct the investigations.
That it would have taken down a presidency is crazy. And by the way, if you look at the story of how the deep state,
the Supreme Court had to step in and force Nixon to surrender the audio tapes.
Richard Nixon, it's not all that different from what the same groups of people, the same institutions tried to do to Donald Trump in the first Trump administration. There is a parallel.
The deep state did it.
I also, just at a personal level, a young senator, vice president, writes some best-selling books, is hated by the media. It kind of sounds like J.D. Vance. So I'm a little, I've always liked Richard Nixon. But okay, one other thing about Richard Nixon that I think is fascinating is, the two biggest historical.
He's thinking back like we do, 2 or 3 Watergates, before lunch every day.
Electoral college landslides in American history are, of course, Ronald Reagan in 1984, Richard Nixon in 1972. Okay, what you may not know, and some of my political data guys who are very into this have drilled into me, is that Nixon's coalition in 72. Though if you look at the top line numbers, you would say, well, that's exactly what happened in 1984. It's much different. Nixon's coalition in 72 is actually durable and much more closely resembles the Trump coalition of 2024 than the Reagan coalition of 84. So what Reagan did in 84 is he ran up margins basically with white Americans. And of course, you know, he won a historic landslide, but the country is much less white today than it was in 1984.
By the way, Trump did not win in a landslide either. Okay. Historic landslide, huge landslide, or that they have a mandate, blah, 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 whatever. Trump won the popular vote in the Electoral College. They won the Senate and the House, but contrary to both Republican talking points and breathless headlines and hot takes from the leading media outlets, there was really nothing at all historic or huge about the margin of victory. Repeat after me. There was no landslide. There was no blowout. There was no sweeping mandate given to Trump by the electorate. The numbers don't lie. First, consider the popular vote. Yes, Trump became the first Republican for 2 decades to win the popular vote. However, per the results, CNN, the Cook Political Report, and the New York Times, he did not win a majority of the vote. Barack Obama did in both 2008 and 2012. Joe Biden did in 2020. But Donald Trump failed to do so in 2024. And the former president's margin of victory over Harris is a minuscule 1.6 percentage points, smaller than that of every winning president since 1888, other than JFK and Richard Nixon. In fact, in the 55 presidential elections in which the popular vote winner became the president, 49 of them were won with a margin bigger than Trump in 2024. I don't know why they keep saying the fucking landslide.
Nixon's coalition was unbelievably durable to the demographic change that we've seen in the United States of America. So this is a guy who Reagan could not have won his landslide in 2024. Richard Nixon maybe could have won his landslide in 2024. And I think that there's a very important political lesson in that for all of us in the Republican Party. He was actually like a political genius. And I'm just fascinated by the guy's historical figure. So anyway, so very, very happy to be here. But okay, so it says that the greatest honor history can bestow is to call someone a peacemaker. And I think, thank you. And, was I thinking about that quote when we were in Switzerland? No. Was I thinking about that sentiment? Absolutely. Because, one of the other lessons of Richard Nixon is it's not just that he got out of Vietnam, but that he got out of Vietnam from a position of strength, okay? It's one thing to tuck tail and run. It's another thing to clearly define an objective, to accomplish that objective, and then to ensure that you don't allow mission creep to transform a victory into defeat. And one of the things I've seen with the president...
Yeah, fucking Reagan in 84 won like 525 electoral college votes. Trump got 312.
States in the last few weeks, and frankly, some of the criticism that we've gotten even from our friends is they're constantly trying to change the mission that Donald Trump set us up to achieve. And what did he say? He said at the outset, I want to destroy their conventional military, I want to eliminate their ability to project power, and I want to ensure that they never have a nuclear weapon ever, okay? And what I've seen is some people try to say, that's great, but you should have a different objective. And I think the reason why the president has been so successful is because he refuses to give in to that impulse. He says, we came what we set out to do, we created incredible diplomatic, economic, and military leverage. Let's use that leverage to go and accomplish an even bigger win for the American people. That's what he's asked us to do. It's not over yet, but so far so good.
That's great to hear. Finally, Mr. Vice President, you are a walking, talking embodiment of the American dream. And as you write in Communion, you came from the lowest 5th income bracket, and you are now only one step away from the top of American public life. How are you reflecting on America on its 250th birthday?
Yeah, I guess I just can't help but look back at my life. 41 years. I'm the Vice President of the United States, but most importantly, I've got 3...
Fucking Mike Johnson came out today and was like, if the Democrats win, they're going to investigate all of us. Good, motherfucker. That's what we've been waiting on.
Beautiful kids and a 4th on the way.
Start investigating, goddammit.
We're able to give our kids things that I never thought that I would be able to give my kids. And I just
stop doing illegal shit. You got nothing to worry about.
Can't help but feel incredible gratitude to the United States of America. Nowhere but here would this be possible. And I think that when I consider, just to make a slightly partisan point here, as we've got people waving the Palestinian flag outside and holler at us in Spanish. By the way, the Vice President can't understand what you're protesting about if you don't speak the language of everybody else here. So if you want...
Would it have made a difference if they were yelling it at you in English? I think they chose to speak in Spanish for a reason. And it's not so you could or couldn't understand them.
Like, note to protesters, if you want the Vice President to hear what you're protesting about, you've got to use a language I actually understand. anyway. But
that just makes you sound dumb, dude.
I think that what I've noticed about politics in my lifetime is, I was raised by blue-collar, socially conservative Democrats. My papa was a union steel man his entire life. He voted for Republicans like once ever, and otherwise he was a Democrat. And whatever your politics, whether you were a Democrat or Republican, I grew up in a world where every politician was expected to have some basic gratitude for the United States of America. So when I think about 250 years of American history, what I think about is that the entire greatness of this country was built by all of us together. When we went to the moon in Nixon's administration, yeah, it was the astronauts, but it was also the scientists who designed the rockets. It was the janitor who was making sure that the place where they were building the rockets was a clean place to come to work. It was every single person working together to make a great achievement possible only in the United States of America. When I think about what happened just in the last few months, yes, it's the vice president and Steve Witkoff negotiating, but it's junior enlisted folks who signed up and didn't know what the hell they were getting themselves into, but made it possible for us to win something great for the American people. The story of this country is that the foundation is laid by normal, common, good people who make the great achievements of American civilization possible. And when I think about what bothers me so much about partisan politics in 2026 is I don't hear the sense of gratitude that all of us should have. Whether you're black or white, rich or poor, we should be grateful to the people who built this country. We wouldn't have such a great life or a great civilization without them.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Vice President of the United States.
Fucking joke, dude. Watergate. It would be off the news cycle in 12 hours. Get the fuck out of here, dude.
Today's special reader is my husband, Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance. Thanks for joining us today, honey.
Of course. Good to see you. You, of course, are very into teaching our kids how to read, which is very cool, and I'm very excited about. But the downside of it is that the more advanced they get, the less that they want mom and dad to read to them.
Well, luckily, there's going to be a new baby for you to read to. So you have many more years ahead of you, right?
That's right. That's right. That's why I so desperately wanted to have a fourth baby, is because I was sick of my kids growing up, and I was not yet ready to be out of the baby phase. So here we are, about to jump right in. And this book actually, it can be a little confusing because at the very beginning, it's about Christopher Robin's dad explaining to Christopher Robin what's going on. And then there's a story within the story, which is about the adventure that Christopher Robin and Winnie the Pooh have as Winnie the Pooh tries to go after honey, which he loves. Now, because as you get older, your eyesight goes a little bad, so I will need my reading glasses to read the story because it is printed on unusually small print. He thought for a moment and said, "I shall try to look like a small black cloud. That will deceive him. Tut tut, it looks like rain. I think if you did that, it would help the deception which we are practicing on these bees."
Thanks for joining us today, honey.
Of course. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Today's special reader is my husband.
Wow, dude.
President of the United States, J.D. Vance. Thanks for joining us today, honey.
Of course. Good to see you.
Hello, have you dined with us before?
Yes, we have.
Wonderful. Could I get the ribeye?
Dynamic pricing.
Terrific choice.
And we'll get a bottle of wine.
Big spenders, I love it.
Well, just for tonight.
Oh yeah? How often are you buying bottles of wine?
From here?
Sure, or just in general.
I don't know.
Never mind, I've got your cookies right here anyway.
I didn't order cookies.
Not yet. No, your internet cookies and some personal data. It looks like you ordered 3 cases of wine in September 2020. The pandemic was hard. Where do you live? In a nice, expensive neighborhood, maybe?
I'm sorry?
It must be close by if you've dined with us before.
Yeah.
So what's your address? And how much?
I know everything and how much they can charge you about it.
I'm trying to determine the cost of your food based on your personal data and some other factors.
In a restaurant?
Some restaurants are experimenting with dynamic pricing, but this is more to showcase how dynamic pricing works for an informative video. Oh, it's an explainer video.
But where else are companies using dynamic pricing?
Well, the Washington Post just emailed readers that their subscriptions may go up. Wow. And guess what was nestled at the very bottom of that email? An apology from Jeff Bezos.
There you go, bud.
No, it said that their price was set by an algorithm using their personal data. Dynamic pricing.
So dynamic pricing can change depending on the buyer
and their location and the time of day.
What other companies are doing?
Well, Amazon charged schools vastly different prices for the same basic school supplies.
Jeez.
And Sony has been testing this in their PlayStation store.
How's that go?
Well, loyal customers aren't rewarded for their loyalty and they have to pay more than new customers. Wow, that sucks.
And this is legal?
The FTC has studied this practice, but they haven't done anything about it yet. Now, in Maryland, the governor introduced legislation that would ban dynamic pricing.
If you like, in PlayStation, it's fucked up because you think the people that buy like all the top games or a bunch of games or whatever would get better pricing, but instead they'll lower the price to people who very, very, very rarely purchase from them to get a sale. Because you think about it, especially like a digital copy. Yeah, they invested in it. Yeah, they bought it. The company invested in it. The blah, blah, blah. They're hosting it, the server space or whatever. But how much they really have in one copy? If they sell it to me for $60 and a few other million people for 60, 80, $100, right? They're making fucking bank. They can afford to sell it to you for $20. It's not like they're losing money on something digital like that, right? They're not losing any fucking thing. They already made their money and profit off the early adopters. So they would be better off selling it to you for one fucking penny. As long as it's a profit, you know what I'm saying? Doesn't make any fucking sense. Here is a quick video on the Watergate.
This video is sponsored by Grandma.
By the way,
we
refresh everybody's memory.
Like to start a new year with a daily agenda full of new writing tasks.
I wasn't alive yet, so I need
scripts can be really taxing on your mind. That's where Grammarly comes in and ensures everything sounds consistent.
Well, I don't remember.
This all-in-one writing tool allows us to clearly and effectively convey our ideas through comprehensive feedback across platforms. Grammarly is free to download, easy to integrate, and can be used across multiple platforms and devices, including a desktop app on your PC and as an add-in for Microsoft Office. The free version will cover you with basic grammar, punctuation, and spelling suggestions, but upgrading to Grammarly Premium takes you further. Grammarly Premium's tone transformation.
I think it was in 71, 70, 71.
Will help you sound confident and assertive in your emails when you sound unclear. The full sentence rewrite feature will help you rewrite those hard to read sentences to keep them short and concise, while the tone detector on their free premium today to help you work more efficiently. The Watergate scandal. Between 1972 and late 1973, there was a series of mysterious meetings in an underground car park near Washington, D.C. between Washington Post journalist Robert Bob Woodward and a mysterious anonymous informant who went by the name of Deep Throat. He chillingly revealed the shocking revelation that a recent break-in at the Democratic Party headquarters at the nearby Watergate Hotel and office building was not just a simple burglary, but was, in fact, politically motivated. Worse was to come when it was further revealed that the people behind the break-in were backed by none other than the White House administration of the time, led by President Richard Nixon. It seems his motive was to collect information and place telephone bugging devices in the Democratic headquarters that could prove useful to him in his re-election campaign later that year. President Nixon had become both desperate and paranoid towards the end of his first term, as he scrambled to maintain his hold on the presidential office of the United States.
Desperate, paranoid, desperate enough to go to the opposing party's headquarters and put listening devices in and steal documents.
Among his many problems was the negotiated withdrawal of American forces from Vietnam, a prolonged and now highly unpopular war. Nixon's campaign ticket of peace proved very popular among the American people, however, who, having returned from the precipice of nuclear war only a decade earlier, were now witnessing a period of nurtured détente. This de-escalation of hostilities between the U.S. and the so-called red states of the East even saw President Nixon pay a diplomatic visit to China in early 1972 to discuss trade, among other issues. Occupying a strong position heading into the election campaign then, Nixon naturally decided to deny any involvement in what was now being called the Watergate scandal, and the public chose to believe him. As a result, on November 7, 1972, Nixon was re-elected President of the United States in a landslide victory. But still, allegations about Watergate would not go away. Before long, it emerged to the public that Nixon, among other high-ranking members of the Republican Party, was said to be funding a covert group to carry out clandestine operations. Their activities included gaining access to people's private mail, the widespread bugging of telephones, and carrying out burglaries in an effort to gather information. It was believed that this information would then be used to take down or coerce political opponents. Despite mounting evidence, Nixon continued to deny any knowledge or involvement of any of these illegal activities, while behind the scenes his administration desperately sought for ways to distance themselves from the situation. Things went from bad to worse when, in a rather embarrassing turn of events, it was also revealed that Nixon owed nearly $500,000 in back taxes. This tarnishing report dealt a further blow to Nixon's public image as trust in the president began to unravel. Throughout 1973, pressure was also piled on the presidency in the form of the Senate Watergate Committee, a special branch established by the Senate to investigate the Watergate break-in and any other activities of espionage associated with the 1972 election campaign. The committee was empowered to conduct judicial proceedings, with hearings and testimonies of some of Nixon's closest advisors broadcast on national television throughout the summer months. It was during these Watergate hearings that one of the most pivotal moments of the investigation occurred. In a line of questioning, White House Deputy Assistant Alexander Butterfield was reluctantly forced to reveal the existence of the now infamous White House tapes. The tapes belonged to a new recording system that automatically recorded conversations in the Oval Office, among other private locations in the White House. Possessing all the incriminating
all the Republicans would just make an excuse for Trump.
Evidence the committee would need, Nixon did everything in his power to block the release of the tapes and the investigation as a whole in the latter half of 1973. When subpoenaed under the initiative of Special Prosecutor Archibald Cox, Nixon refused to release the tapes, invoking his presidential right of executive privilege. When Cox refused to back down and continued his push to expose the president, Nixon ordered his Attorney General Elliot Richardson to fire the troublesome prosecutor. Both Richardson and Deputy Attorney General William Ruckelshaus refused to comply, electing to resign in protest instead. While Cox was eventually removed by Solicitor General Robert Bork, his exit alongside that of two of the nation's leading legal figures infamously became known as the Saturday Night Massacre. These developments were naturally met with public outcry as calls for the president's impeachment began. By November 1973, the situation had become so bad for Nixon that during a televised Q&A session at Disney World's Contemporary Resort, he felt compelled to state, "People have got to know whether or not their president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook." By early 1974, however, Nixon's defense had all but capitulated. In March, a number of the president's closest aides and advisors were formally charged on different counts of perjury, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy. In a last-ditch effort, the administration agreed to release an edited version of the transcripts made from the White House tapes. While the contents of the transcripts effectively swept away the last remnants of support for Nixon, investigators nevertheless pushed the issue further, seeking the complete release of the audio tapes. In July, Nixon was defeated in a Supreme Court ruling, and the White House tapes were released to the public. The unedited tapes conclusively tied President Nixon to the Watergate break-in and the further operations of espionage that surrounded the 1972 election campaign. Finally, with the Republican Party washing their hands of the situation on August 9, 1974, Richard Nixon resigned from the presidency rather than be removed from office. Nixon then retired from politics in disgrace, his reputation in ruins. Before criminal charges could be brought against him, however, Nixon was controversially granted a full pardon by the incoming president, Gerald Ford. Nixon was to never hold another political office again. Instead, he devoted the rest of his life to writing and the calling of international affairs. In this period, he undertook many trips abroad to visit various national governments. Famously, in 1977, Nixon conducted a revealing interview with British journalist David Frost, in which the former president attempted to explain his case to the American people. The interview was received with mixed emotions in the United States, where some criticized Nixon for trying to save his reputation, while others saw it as a genuine, heartfelt apology. In the end, Nixon's more positive accomplishments on the world stage were allowed to shine through, and when he died a respected statesman in 1994, President Bill Clinton, alongside former U.S. Presidents George Bush Sr., Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, and Gerald Ford.
I wouldn't say that he didn't go on to do great things. He did, right? And he did his job as president or whatever, but you still can't fucking do this shit and expect and downplay it.
Were all in attendance. As for the mysterious informant Deep Throat, it was not until 2005, over 30 years later, that it was finally revealed that it was none other than the former associate director of the FBI, William Mark Felt. He said he had leaked the information at the time, as it was his moral duty to highlight the shady goings-on in the Nixon administration.
There you go. All right, let's see what this Epstein ruling is.
Some major breaking news here as it relates to the Epstein files, and it is not great for the White House or Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche. Today, a federal judge, U.S. District Judge Emmett Sullivan, issued a ruling finding that Blanche effectively admitted to violating the law when it comes to the Epstein files. And I want to be precise here because the judge's words speak for themselves. Sullivan wrote in his opinion, quote, "The Attorney General does not respond substantively to any of these arguments. The Attorney General has conceded that he is in violation of the act." Not the judge found a violation, not the evidence suggests a violation. The Attorney General of the United States, the nation's top law enforcement officer, conceded the violation by not even bothering to argue against it. He didn't respond. He didn't push back. He just didn't show up to defend himself because he can't. So here's the quick background. Congress passed the Epstein Files Transparency Act in November 2025 by a vote of 427 to 1, nearly unanimous. Trump himself signed the law. It required the DOJ to release all the unclassified Epstein files and remember that action log by December 19th, 2025. They missed that deadline, released documents in waves that were heavily redacted. We're talking hundreds of pages entirely blacked out, and then had the audacity to declare in January that they had fulfilled their legal obligations. Now, that claim received enormous pushback, including from members of Congress who had actually reviewed the files, with some reports suggesting that the full Epstein files have over 6 million pages, while the DOJ managed to release only 3 million. So independent journalist Katie Fang sued the DOJ in April, accusing the administration of a brazen violation of the act, specifically that they were improperly redacting names of co-defendants in a draft indictment, names of potential co-conspirators, and FBI interview notes with a woman who alleged that Epstein introduced her to Trump in the 1980s when she was 13 years old and that Trump had assaulted her. Judge Sullivan agreed with Fang and has now given Blanche until July 2nd, so just a week from now, to release that information or provide a detailed justification for every single redaction. Now, Katie Fang's
which is the original law said
the government ignored its own law and blew off a judge's order, all for the sake of protecting the very powerful and very rich. Doing so has consequences, and now the public will finally get transparency around Jeffrey Epstein and his network. In fact, Fang herself spoke out about the decision here.
They're supposed to have a reason for every redaction.
Katie Fang, private citizen, have standing to be able to get Todd Blanche as the acting attorney general of the Department of Justice to be able to comply with Judge Sullivan's order, which is now telling him that on or before July 2nd, he either has to put up or shut up. He either has to bring forth unredacted files or show cause as to why he should not or cannot do so. But I have identified, Ben, specific areas in the Epstein files. Number one, redactions that have been made to senders and recipients, names and email addresses for some of the most egregious email communications with Jeffrey Epstein, talking about little girls being naughty, things like that. Judge Sullivan says those identities have to be disclosed. Number two, the FBI interview notes for the victim who was alleged that when she was 13 years old, she was physically and sexually abused by Donald Trump. Judge Sullivan has said that Todd Blanche must produce those or show.
Yeah, he's just messing with you, bud. He was talking about being in a hospital when it was during Nixon's funeral.
Cause as to why that he should not have to do so. The foreign language documents in the Epstein Files Act that the Department of Justice didn't bother
that was
to do
back in 1994 or 1995 somewhere.
Translations of. Judge Sullivan said you have to produce those. The names in two internal DOJ documents that identify the co-conspirators / co-defendants that were going to be a part of that proposed indictment in the Southern District of Florida that never materialized because it was never produced or presented to the grand jury. Instead, Epstein got his sweetheart plea deal with the state authorities. Judge Sullivan says that those identities of those co-conspirators and co-defendants must be revealed. And lastly, there was the redaction log that the Epstein File Transparency Act required the DOJ to produce contemporaneously with the rollout of these files. It was supposed to identify the ground.
Every redaction was supposed to be listed, and it couldn't be done for, to protect you politically or to prevent embarrassment. It had to have a real fucking reason, and every redaction had to have a reason for it.
grounds underneath this law as to why they were withholding or redacting certain bits of information. The DOJ wiped his ass with it, Ben, and did not produce that at all. Judge Sullivan said, you better do it and start it now. If not, there's going to be consequences. I mean, this is a big deal, Ben. This judge says I have informational harm and economic harm. But you know what the best part about this order is? It says that Blanche must produce, quote, two.
Oh, I'm sorry. You might be right. I'm wrong. I had Sisyphus instead of syphilis. I see what you're saying. I thought he was talking about you being in the hospital.
The public.
And he didn't know that we were talking about during Nixon's funeral.
Not to just Miss Fang, but to the public. And this is why I brought this lawsuit in the beginning. We needed this transparency as
You're probably right.
the public, and we had to force the DOJ to have to do this.
And here's where I want to train your attention to something important. The DOJ's response to this ruling was to say, and I'm not making this up, that Judge Sullivan's finding was, quote, a perverse interpretation of the law, and that Blanche, quote, has not conceded anything, which is...
Blanche didn't show up to defend himself. So he did concede. If you don't show up to defend yourself, default judgment, right?
Is a fascinating defense for a guy who literally did not respond to the allegations. That's like saying you didn't lose a tennis match because you never showed up. Buddy, that's how you lose. Just a quick note here to say that if you appreciate my work, which is and always will be 100% free, a small ask is if you could please pre-order my new book, The Day After, which explores how Democrats must finally wield power if they're fortunate enough to get it back. I'll also be on tour in DC, New York, and LA mid-July. You can grab tickets to the tour and you can pre-order the book at the same link, which I'll put...
Brian Tyler Cohen lost a lot of momentum around the chorus thing, but I like his content.
On the screen and in the post description of this video. You can also find them at briantylercohen.com/book. Again, I'll never paywall a single piece of content, but this is the one time that I'll ask for some support for a book that I really think meets this moment. Thanks so much. Now, it's not especially surprising that Todd Blanche is flailing here, considering this has become a recurring theme for the Attorney General, who seems to be in his position solely to facilitate the continued cover-up of this scandal. In fact, just weeks ago, Todd Blanche testified for the House and straight up refused to even acknowledge objective reality that the DOJ has more documents to release.
When will you comply with the law and release all of the files?
As I said to you when we spoke before, we have complied with the law. We have.
There are 3 million more documents, and you know what you said to me? They're all duplicative, and they include another guy named Epstein.
No, I didn't
Nobody's
say
buying.
I did not say that.
That's what you said.
So look,
reclaiming my time.
Can I answer the question?
I just gave you the answer you gave me. No, actually, it's my time, Mr. Chairman. I think those are the rules of this committee. I told him the answer he gave me, and now in public he's trying to say something else. Please stop the clock. Can I get that time back? May I have 20 seconds back, Mr. Chairman? Thank you. I very much appreciate that.
Mr. Blanche. You don't want me to answer the question.
Mr. Blanche, as you know, I visited DOJ 3 times for as much as 10 hours, and I'll be going back. Does the Epstein File Transparency Act say that the file should be available to members of Congress with a minder at DOJ, where you're in a secure room, you can't write on any of the binders, you can take your own notes? Is that what the Transparency Act says?
It doesn't require we allow you to come to DOJ at all. We did that on our own.
What does it say in terms of transparency? It says that they should be made publicly available.
And they were.
Am I correct? Publicly available.
And they were.
Oh, well, let's talk about that.
Okay.
Time of the gentlelady has expired.
I beg your pardon. 2 minutes and 10 seconds. And I'd actually like to get 20 seconds back.
2 minutes and 10 seconds left.
How do I get cut off 2 minutes into this?
2 minutes and 10 seconds left.
Time of the gentlelady has expired.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Chairman.
No, that's not.
What rules are we operating under? Because he's under a little bit of heat for not prosecuting anyone in these monstrous crimes? I've been in the room. I have been there. This is what I had to do, to transcribe, to show what is true. What is true is that the president has lied about being on Epstein's plane, and the unredacted files prove that. There's a lot in here. I'm shocked at this. There's also this set of files in the file. This is investigation into the potential co-conspirators of Jeffrey Epstein. I almost used up all the blank ink in the hallway because it's all covered up. It's all covered up. The American people are not stupid. They know that when members of Congress have to go in and actually unredact to try to find the truth for these victims, something is corrupt. Something is corrosive.
So as you can see, Todd Blanche is so shameless, so corrupt, that he will just lie outright and pretend that the DOJ has released all the files. He's moved beyond excuses and is just fabricating his own reality. And you might have also noticed that the rest of the GOP is helping the cover up along. And also in that clip was the chair of the House Appropriations Subcommittee, Hal Rogers, trying to rescue Todd Blanche by straight up cutting Representative Dean's questioning just 2 minutes in. The entire fucking party is in on this cover up. There is no move too small for these people to pull to somehow, in their own small way, help perpetuate the cover up of a pedophile ring and their deity's participation in it. So look, it would be bad enough that you've got an entire political party in the United States committed to the cover-up of a pedophile ring, but even worse given the fact that they know better. Remember, this is the stuff that they were saying back when they were pandering for your votes.
Everybody in politics has a vice that's much worse than alcoholism, is the way that I put it. But we release the list. Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. That seems like an evil thing to do, regardless of who may be embarrassed in the release of that list. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
Are you wondering why we're not hearing more about this Epstein case?
I mean, the guy was only connected to just about every major player in the swamp internationally, and yet you don't hear much about it. And what the hell are they hiding with Jeffrey Epstein?
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein.
You raised the question of Jeffrey Epstein in your remarks about in the Q&A.
Well, I think he's got a problem. I mean,
What do you think the problem will be?
I don't know, but that island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew. He'll tell you about it. The island was an
Trump even tried to claim Biden was on the list. Biden's not on any fucking list.
absolute cesspool.
The sad truth is that Trump and Republicans clearly never actually cared about Epstein. They just exploited the issue for votes. If they did care, they would use the power that they have.
It's also funny they wouldn't even invite Elon.
With full control of government right now to actually do something about it, to release the full files, to prosecute the co-conspirators, to deliver justice to the victims. Instead, we've gotten excuses, lies, PR stunts, and half measures. It could not be more clear where they stand on this issue if it was tattooed on their foreheads. July 2nd is the deadline. We will be watching. Before you go, I'm very excited to announce that I've written a new book titled The Day After: How to Wield Power in a Post-Trump World. The book explores what is, in my opinion, the single most important theme that we're dealing with in politics today and moving forward: power. Specifically, how Republicans abuse it and how Democrats refuse to wield it. This book explains how we got here and...
All right, check out Brian Tyler Cohen's book.
President Trump said tonight that they are going to have to redo the surface of the reflecting pool just weeks after they finished it. And I can confirm exclusively that the same contractor, Atlantic Industrial Coatings, is coming back under warranty, no new funds, to redo the surface.
Oh, did you guys see they released the video of the Antifa pool slasher?
To drain the pool. Also tonight, there's some weird influx of algae coming through the pipes. Not seen this before, and it has covered the reflecting pool in green. How are they going to keep this place as clean as you guys have left it? Not your problem.
Not a question for us to answer.
That's not American flag blue. I mean, it's almost black. It is a blue. I believe that, but it's not American flag blue. I don't know what the fuck that's supposed to mean. Hold on. They released the video. Did you guys see it? Here's the vandal with the box cutter.
As I want to bring you...
It is literally, I kid you not, it is someone reaches down in the water and grabs one of the flapping pieces and pulls it off. A chunk about this big. Now look, she's going to have to run 350 feet with a knife and cut. She's going to have to travel at least 300 feet. Maybe she just pulls real hard in the last 50 feet. Bullshit.
Some of the latest on a story that we have been following very closely here, the alleged vandalism of the reflecting pool after President Trump's big renovation project. The National Park Service says a liner along the bottom of the pool was cut with a sharp knife or razor, causing damage to the foam sealant installed as part of that $16 million project. A court document filed this week states the U.S. Park Police were called on the 9th to a complaint by the Park Service. The Associated Press saying the police report indicates damage to the pool, quote...
By the way, it's only 160, 170 feet wide. So if they not length, but if they went widthways, they'd have to go all the way across and back.
Including a caulk over the foam sealant that was cut with a sharp knife or razor and destruction of delaminating surface material. Officials also saying that about 70 fence post tops were thrown into the pool as well. Right here you are looking at a post, or you were, from President Trump. That was via
there it is.
As he spoke last night to folks in...
Let's see if we can do this. Where's my Truth Social? By the way, last night of Prime Day, if you're looking for any good deals on, especially, like I said, if you do like Amazon electronics and shit like that, there's a lot of good stuff on sale. It's up to you if you're an Amazon person or not. Especially, we have Prime, so. Actually, my cell phone provider, which is like a shitty one, is Straight Talk. They gave me Walmart Plus for free. And if you have Walmart Plus, which I got it for free, I probably wouldn't pay for it. But I did find out that as long as you don't need it rushed, you can get fucking Walmart deliveries for free, which is nice if you don't feel like leaving the house. You know what I mean? Not bad.
In the Rose Garden and essentially made comments confirming the situation had happened and that it had been looked at. Now, that filing comes as the National Park Service released video of a person they want to identify in connection with an investigation into...
They're asking for tips. Okay? And identifying this person. This is all they got. We need help identifying this person. I shit you not. All they do is pull up this. It doesn't even make any fucking sense.
Vandalism of the pool. Take a look right here. This is that video up close because you can see a still image on the left-hand side, but they provide a wide view and then they zoom in and actually circle the person that they say they are trying to identify. U.S. Park Police asking for help to identify the person in the video.
She takes up the tiniest chunk. I mean, no bigger than a baseball. It looks like she says, look, it's coming up. And it's like kind of like floating in the water because it's 2 or 3 feet deep. She's definitely not picking up. She's definitely not touching the bottom of the pool, right? So it looks like that floating section that's been separate for a while, and she takes a piece out of it. Kind of looks like Atsuko. I mean, I hate to name names. This is your 350-foot slasher. She's like, look, it's coming up. There's a chunk of it. Yeah, she's already back at fucking Atsuko's rice dungeon or wherever she lives.
In connection with what they call a destruction of government property investigation, adding the incident happened June 19th, but providing no other details about that alleged crime. The Interior Department.
So right now, the way they're treating it is the liner in several spots has come completely loose, so it's kind of neutrally buoyant, like it kind of floats in the water. And when the wind hits it just right, you can even see it stand up a little bit out of the water. If you touch that liner that's floating on top of the water in any capacity, you're either given a ticket or arrested on the spot. If you touch the water and it looks like you touched the liner, same.
Department says as of yesterday, 7 people have been arrested for different incidents involving the pool and vandalism. 7 federal citations also issued, with 18 police reports being filed. Now, I told you about this just yesterday, but let's pop this up on your screen here because one of the arrests was former Olympian Davey Hearn. His attorney releasing a statement to Live Now from Fox saying, quote, treating ordinary conduct as criminal diverts attention from the real questions of how this project was managed, including its corrupt, no-bid contracting process. Using the criminal justice system to target innocent people as a form of distraction is textbook authoritarian behavior, end quote. Again, that is a remark coming in from the attorney for Davey Hearn. We were told by that attorney that he would not be speaking with us on camera, but they did provide that report there. Now, a spokesperson for the Interior Department says public notification about the damage on
everybody's clear
was delayed because, quote, the vandalism was under investigation and believed to be isolated. So as to not encourage deranged individuals, we did not announce what we hope to be an isolated incident, end quote. Around the same time, Park Service staff, quote, discovered another incident where fencing around the pool had been forcibly removed and thrown into the pool. That is, again, to the Associated Press, a spokesperson for the Park Service providing that information. The department soon noticed, they say, that, quote, recurring cases and videos of people ripping at the coating began to circulate. We then knew this was not an isolated incident, but a new trend to attempt to damage the reflecting pool.
No, once it's floating, it's fucking useless, dude. It's no better than fucking trash on the ground. I'll agree. They shouldn't be going in there and like prying it up from the edge and pulling it off. Once it's fucking detached, who gives a fuck? It's already done already.
Now, again, all of this happening as we are just days away from July 4th. And, of course, the America 250 events are already underway. Now, we are going to hear later on today from President Trump. It is possible that he will kind of talk about this issue or at least be asked about it. But he is expected at one.
So to actually fix the pool is going to cause, it's going to have to be taken down. It's going to have to be empty for a while. It's going to have pumps in it because it's going to rain while they're fixing it, blah, 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 and all this shit. And they're going to have to fix some of the piping and some of the pumps. And they probably have to do some excavation, put a new filter system in. It's going to be a lot of work. And Trump doesn't want it tore up. Trump thinks of anybody that comes to D.C. is coming to visit him, right? So he wants, the reason that this is a no contract bid, because he said it was an emergency, it had to be done before his birthday. You can't declare an emergency because your birthday's coming up, a national emergency. So he doesn't want it down for that amount of time. And other presidents have just had other things on their plate, right? Would you rather fix the reflecting pool that works now? It just costs a lot of money because it leaks and gets algae and shit in it. Or, try to pass an infrastructure bill or try to get out of the war in Afghanistan or, you know what I mean? Trump's so vain. He wants D.C. to all have an uplift, a facelift because people are coming to see him.
1:30 p.m. Eastern Time to address the Faith and Freedom Coalition Summit.
Plus, it's something he can slap a coat of paint on. Hopefully, the paint won't start peeling until after, after people forget about it, or he's out of office, or it's past midterms, and say, look how much better I did everything.
That is taking place here. We're going to have a live look inside, and we'll bring you those remarks in full on Live Now from Fox, as we always do.
One last update before I got to go. It says Bricks and Minifigs just surrendered.
They sued him under a racketeering statute. They got a judge to gag him. They went on a press tour stating that the whole thing was like manufactured viral hysteria and that the whole thing will be over very soon. Well, guess what, people? It's soon. And it is over. I mean, basically, because 2 days ago, Bricks and Minifigs marched into a Utah courtroom arm in arm with Ben Schneider, and they quietly surrendered the entire fight that they started with him. This is not a settlement. It's a fold, a collapse. And I'm going to show you how fast and how completely they gave up and why what they kept is worth absolutely nothing. I'm America's attorney. I've been a lawyer for 25 years. I've helped over 12 million people. And today I'm breaking down how Bricks and Minifigs just collapsed in the reckless bid case.
Oh, we didn't even cover the fact that nobody's at the fair. I have to do a video on that too.
Watching who have not yet subscribed to this channel, I'm starting to think you're waiting for a judge to order you to do it. Well, I got bad news. That's probably not happening because of your constitutional rights. But I also have good news. The button's right here. I don't know. The button's everywhere. The button's all around us and it's free. And it helps me keep dragging you down these legal rabbit holes every week. So please, now, just hit it. Hit it, Joe. Quick catch up. If you haven't been on YouTube at all in the entire month of June, I mean, bless you. Wow. A family in Oregon consigned a Lego Star Wars collection to a franchise Bricks and Minifigs store. The store changed hands, and new operators wouldn't return the collection or pay for it, and Reckless Ben turned it into a national story. Corporate's response wasn't to fix the problem. It was to go to war with the messenger. And on May 27th, they filed a civil RICO statute. Yes, the racketeering statute built to prosecute the mob, like Al Capone and Machine Gun Kelly, and all those really bad guys from a different era, naming Ben, his company, and the consignor's own family as defendants. A day later, they got a restraining order gagging Ben. Then 2 days ago, June 24th, both parties filed a joint stipulation, and every piece of it is a retreat by BAM. 1, they asked the court to dissolve the gag order and replace it with a stipulated injunction. They're throwing out their own emergency order. 2, they asked to cancel the June 30th hearing. That would be the contested hearing where a judge would finally rule on the record whether the gag that they requested and received was even legal to stay in place for the rest of the case. They pulled that. And number 3, the new proposed order explicitly permits Ben to discuss the lawsuit, publish the court filings, and post commentary on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and podcasts. And I think he's even allowed to comment on this video. Waiting. Ben. Waiting. Just saying, if you want to.
Can you bless me with something?
Everything they sued to stop, they just authorized in writing. The company that got a court to silence little Ben Schneider handed him back the megaphone on paper. And here's why that's a collapse and not a truce. Look at the calendar. The gag was May 28th. The total fold was June 24th. Under 4 weeks ago from, we're suing you for racketeering, to, hey, post whatever you want. Companies don't quit that fast when they're winning. They quit when every day that the case stays alive costs them more than the case was ever worth. Those 4 weeks have been brutal. You know the GoFundMe for the family blew past $500,000? Patreon CEO went on camera and publicly refused their takedown demand.
Oh, did we see that video? It said that they had received notice from Bricks and Minifigs' lawyer to take down the Patreon channel and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we don't give a fuck, dude. Hold on. We need to watch that as well. Let's do this. I saw it on TikTok. So Patreon. I should have showed this already. Reckless Spin. Dude's like, we don't give a fuck, dude.
Creator community. My name is Jack.
Which makes me fucking like Patreon even more. I have a Patreon channel that I appreciate some of you guys are still subscribed to. We need to get back to making content for it, or at least early releases or something.
Community. My name is Jack Conti, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Patreon. On May 29th, Patreon received an official takedown request filed by Bricks and Minifigs for media and accounts related to Reckless Ben and an ongoing dispute regarding a local Lego consignment issue. This is the verified complaint with exhibits. This is the request for immediate content removal pursuant to temporary restraining order. And this is the motion for the temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction. So after an extensive review and investigation by Patreon's trust and safety team, we have in fact unfortunately determined that Bricks and Minifigs can stuff it. We're keeping Ben's page up.
That's fucking awesome.
Bricks and Minifigs doesn't like that. They can sue us. Patreon out. Dear creator community.
That's pretty fucking awesome, dude. That Patreon stood up for him.
That Salem, Oregon store closed for good. And the CEO has been on a crazy interview tour where he has basically given the case away. The gag didn't bury the story. It became the story. It's classic Streisand. They turned a Lego dispute into a national referendum on corporate bullying, and they lost the case before a judge ever even ruled. Speaking of which, the judge hasn't ruled on this stipulation. It was such a dramatic departure from what they asked for that the judge entered some questions seeking clarification about what the parties were trying to accomplish. And since that time, the parties have gone back into court and answered the judge's clarifying questions. We can now anticipate that the judge will enter that stipulated order immediately. BAM's people will spin this. They'll say, we didn't fold, we kept an injunction. Okay. You got to read what they kept. The proposed order still bars Ben from making threats, doxing people, which is a jerk move, trespassing, impersonating anyone, and interfering with the stores. Every item is conduct, not speech, and every item was already illegal before this lawsuit existed. You can't threaten people, you can't trespass, you can't impersonate. Well, actually, a few comedians can impersonate, and they're really good at what they do.
At this point, anybody could be the president.
This stipulation, this is not a court order. It's just a recap of the laws that already apply to all of us. And notice what's not on the list. Not a single word about coverage. Nothing stops reckless Ben from reporting, publishing the documents, naming names, or dropping the next video. They gave up the only thing they wanted, his silence, and kept the right to stop him from committing crimes he was hopefully never going to commit anyways. That's the salvage. That's what total victory looks like when you've actually lost. So what did Ben get? He got everything that counts. The gag order lifted in writing without a year-long courtroom war. And the kicker? Ben has said for weeks that part 3 of his investigation is already finished. It's edited, it's sitting on a hard drive, and the only thing keeping it offline was that pesky restraining order. Well, the order is on its way out. The corporation spent 4 weeks and a pile of legal fees to keep the video buried, and then they just signed the paper that lets it go live. Remember, they hired Denton's. That law firm is not discount lawyering. So if you wanted one image for how badly this has backfired, that's it. One honest caveat, the case isn't fully dead. They're headed to mediation, and the RICO claims are technically still on the docket. But make no mistake, a corporation that promised to crush this in court. Well, they just asked the court to let everyone go home and sort it out themselves. And then when the court had questions, they're like, no, we'll clarify it because we really want you to approve the order that we've asked for. They did not beat Reckless Ben. They got beaten by a guy with a camera, a platform that wouldn't cave, and a public, that's you, that saw exactly what was happening. You know what? It's also your kids, because everyone has been watching these Lego videos. What are your thoughts on this joint stipulation? Is it the cleanest corporate cave that you've ever seen, or is BAM just regrouping for mediation? Do me a favor. Drop your pro se opinion down below in the comments and let me know what you think. And don't forget to lawyer up with me, America's Attorney, by hitting that subscribe button. I'll be back so soon with more legal.
That's pretty fucking good, Patreon. All right, let's do this. It's called the National State Fair, right? That's what I titled it. I need to at least pick up one video. The Great American State Fair. It didn't seem like there was fucking anybody there. Like, it seemed so fucking empty, bro.
We're getting the first reports from Donald Trump's State Fair in Washington, D.C., and they're not great. The ice cream melted yesterday, and there was no ice cream left for those who were there. And speaking about those who were there, the crowd size at the State Fair, there were no lines to get it. It was very small. And at a point, even the Ferris wheel in the middle of the National Mall broke down for several hours and couldn't work. Several states didn't even participate, didn't send a delegation. And you had states where you kind of just walked in to one of their booths, and it was just a couple chairs, and that's really it. And they chose against sending delegations because the president made it a partisan event. The State Fair, which actually I was very excited for, was supposed to be a nonpartisan event to highlight all of America's states and territories. And yet it turned into a situation where you have a broken Ferris wheel, melted ice cream, not many people showing up, and not many states showing up either. So that's where we're at right now. Spread the word. Full updates on my Substack, link in bio, subscribe for free. Follow along for all the news you need to know about when it comes soon. We're getting.
So I'm downtown heading to Trump's little State Fair thingamajiggy. Of course, they already screwed up. The damn thing was supposed to be at 12th Street. It's not. They send you to 12th Street on the map, and now they're making me walk 3 or 4 blocks to get to the entrance because they've got enough security here to be like it's the airport or the White House or something. Well, that took forever. I had to walk like 4 or 5 blocks to get to the stupid entrance. You'll see not exactly big lines here today. Not exactly any lines here today. But let's see what happens next. Okay, I'm finally inside this crazy thing after walking blocks and blocks and blocks. There's the Ferris wheel. There's a huge line there. Kind of weird, kind of empty. There's his freaking arch. He's got a lot of like neoclassical fake stuff along the sides that we're going to visit. There's the Congress. Behind me is the Washington Monument. Oops, hello. Sure, now we're going to look at this freaking ugly as fuck arch. I mean, honestly, the top stuff looks like the guys from World War II Germany built it. Nasty stuff. Okay, so there we go. Oh my god, I mean, that is the most hideous stuff. It's like from Game of Thrones, the stuff on top. It's total Game of Thrones. This bizarro, look at this.
It looks so fucking empty, dude. Or at least to me it did.
Honestly,
maybe I'm crazy.
Now, what I just figured out is these are the various states that are inside these little fake neoclassical things, and then the Congress in the background. So let's take a look. So here we are at North Carolina. They've got a race car. I'm not terribly impressed with my native DC. There's like a fake cherry blossom and then a wall you can sign. Virginia, it's a sign that says love made of corn, apple, utensils, and peanuts. Then there's a rodeo tent. No rodeo going on yet, although very pretty dog in the background, but that's about it. And then here's my Illinois tent. Again, a little weird. There's corn. The kids are playing with corn and Legos of some kind, and I'm not quite sure why that's Illinois, but what the hell. So far, these states are very, very boring. I'm going to now go over to Alaska and see what they've got, because I spent a lot of time in Alaska. If Alaska's boring, I'm going to be very disappointed, because how could Alaska be boring? Not a ton of people here either, by the way. You can see the crowds, the wild crowds. It's a cast of thousands. No. And for some reason, nobody can figure out there's a line for Arizona. Only Arizona. Nobody else. But Arizona, there's a line. So this is very sad. Alaska and Hawaii have nothing. I'm not quite sure why. Hawaii, Democratic state. Alaska, Republican state. There's nothing here. Very weird. All right, so this is the food court. A little Soviet-ish, but that's okay. So I'm downtown heading to Trump's little State Fair thingamajiggy. Of course, they already screwed up. The damn thing was supposed to be at 12th Street. It's not. They send you to 12th Street on the map, and now they're making me walk 3 or 4 blocks to get to the entrance because they've got enough security here to be like it's the airport or the White House or something. Well, that took forever. I had to walk like 4 or 5 blocks to get to the stupid entrance. You'll see not exactly big lines here today. Not exactly any lines here today. But let's see what happens next. Okay, I'm finally inside this crazy thing after walking blocks and blocks and blocks. There's the Ferris wheel. There's a huge line there. Kind of weird, kind of empty. There's his freaking arch. He's got a lot of like...
I don't know. It looks like there's not much there, right?
There's the Congress. Behind me is the Washington Monument. Oops, hello. Sure, now we're going to look at this freaking ugly as fuck arch. I mean, honestly, the top stuff looks like the guys from World War II Germany built it. Nasty stuff.
Well, yesterday, in an absolutely jaw-dropping exchange, Democratic Senator Gary Peters of Michigan asked Trump Postmaster General about one of those executive orders, one that Trump signed in March to create a federal database of eligible voters. It not only required states to share voter information, it also empowered the U.S. Postal Service to be the gatekeeper of who's able to vote by mail. And that's exactly what Senator Peters got Trump's Postmaster General to admit on the record yesterday.
If a state refuses to turn their absentee voter list over to the federal government, will the Postal Service still mail their ballots under this proposal rule?
Under our proposed regulation, no. We would tell the state that we need the manifest in order to, look, what we're asking for.
That's the answer. You don't know. So the proposed rule basically coerces states to conform to these new requirements and hand over their absentee voter rolls or face the consequences of not being able to vote by mail.
All right, folks, sit with that for just a second. If you're not on Trump's administration's list, you can't cast your vote by mail. And if your state doesn't bend the knee or some other state body part, then nobody can vote by mail. That is Donald Trump's vision of democracy. But today, we actually got some good news on that front. Yes, there is a cavalry out there. Just this afternoon, a federal judge struck down that executive order restricting vote by mail. And that decision came just one day after a different federal judge blocked another executive order intended to restrict voting. One requiring proof of citizenship, like your birth certificate, just to register to vote. Now, as the judge in that case pointed out, the Constitution does not grant the president any specific powers over elections. Just a little constitutional law for you there. Yep, Donald Trump 101. Come on, you can't do it. Well, yesterday, in an absolutely jaw-dropping exchange, Democratic Senator Gary...
Everybody wants to see this thing in action, which, whatever. So,
I guess. I think that's it for me. Support the show. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for hanging out with me. I should be able to get back on schedule this week, hopefully. I'm going to be working. I got to go mow tomorrow at the campground. I mowed my house this evening. But either way, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for being here. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate it. Yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Everybody have a good night. Love you. See you. Bye. Thanks for joining me. Bye, Bort.
But I can tell you this about if this douchebag happens to see this particular show, you don't have the fork and balls to call out the people on this planet by name and tell them exactly who they are and tell them the rest of the world who they are. You don't have the fork and balls. You don't have the balls.
Okay, Scott.
Here we go. I think I started some shit. Listen off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go, I think I started swinging fucking meat hammers like four in a thong. He's strapped to the shaft, eating his chest like he's King Kong. Starving for attention, I'ma make your gut burst. I'll be your huckleberry, I can quench that thirst. Baby eating lizard people, alien sex. What's next? Trump in a dress, fucking Flynn on his desk. A retard in a vest, climbing up 5G towers. Cause you told him if he did, he'd get fucking superpowers. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss him off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. I used to find clues too when I was high on shrooms. I found myself a tunnel that led to Jason Q's bedroom. Open his closet, I found some of his meat rockets. I strapped it to my shoes and then I flew through the roof. I found myself in orbit strapped to an F-16. High on amphetamine with Trump in between. Put on a light coat of baby oil and saluted the troops. He tapped me on the shoulder and said, "This is gonna be it." Whoa, wait. Stop. What? I'll get my files. What are you doing? Stop. Hold on. Fucking stop. Dude, come on. Seriously. This is my mom's an alcoholic. Give me oh my God. Damn it. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Round 3. Down goes Nino. Please say it isn't so. Got him backed up on the ropes, trying to ram it down his throat. Now things are getting rocking, he was doing so well. It's all over, hands on his shoulders, they ringing his bell. You got Frog News Network doing no damn research. They rework and copy all cocks that came first. 9th inning, second string, and they acting like they know hitters. Assholes throwing bullshit shit and runs to the shitter. All this nonsense on my conscience, it's hard to sleep at night. Who the fuck is in my window with this time of the night? These parasites, these leeches, with all their secret meetings, teaching all you fucking cretins about baby eating heathens. Believing in reason with no meaning is bullshit. Will Bird motherfuckers out here busting the grifts. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in the best, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet. Here we go, I think I started some shit. Piss them off, it's about to get lit. Get the place in them bets, you know that stage is set. You better buckle up, cause you ain't seen none yet.
You don't have those guts because you're a pussy. You're a pussy wearing aviator glasses in your mother's basement. And I won't even give out your dime store handle because that's really pathetic.